Stop touching the mic, Gary. Stop it.
Just stop it.
Stop touching the microphone. It makes noises.
It's all right. All right, we got our coffee. Dude, I go into our dining room the other day after one of these big giant rainstorms.
Okay.
And, well, actually, I hear Lauren go, that's not good. Uh-oh. And I'm in the kitchen. I look into the dining room and hear water. Somehow water got into our wall from this rainstorm. And I had probably like a foot long by like 6-inch wide piece of paint, ball paint, that was bubbled out and filled with water.
Dude, how does that even happen?
Well, I think it's flashing because where it's at is a bump out window.
Okay.
And there's flashing. There's like a roof over top of it, and there's flashing. So I think I need to go up there and recaulk it.
Oh, I got behind it.
And the storm was blowing, like, it was just crazy the way it was blowing the rain.
It happens.
So, always something, you know.
It's always something, dude.
Always something. Episode 16 is the something right now. Episode 16, Gary. Low expectations.
That's great, dude. That means you have to, like, when you open up the thing, you got to push see more, and there's like more, you know? It's not just like 5.
It's not just 5.
16.
16.
My S's sound funny in my ears.
Well, they sound funny in your ears. They're real aggressive, I think, in our ears, but thanks to our AI and my great editing skills.
Yeah.
I don't think they're as bad on when people are listening to it. But if it's bad, if the S's are crushing your eardrums, people, let us know, and we can try to correct that problem. I think it gets calmed down a little bit during the editing process.
Dude, when you texted me this morning and you're like, hey, if you see someone in my mailbox, it's okay. Like something like that. And I was like, how is someone in your mailbox? Like, people aren't that small. You don't have a giant mailbox. And I didn't understand it. So then you said, don't shoot. Somebody's going to be putting something in my mailbox. Just don't shoot them. Like, I'm the guy that's going to shoot somebody because they're in your mailbox. Like, you can't shoot somebody just because they're in your mailbox.
I don't know. It's a federal crime.
Well, I'm sure that would go well.
No,
who wants to shoot somebody just because they went in a mailbox?
I just wanted you to be aware. And I figured in my short message that you would understand what I'm saying. Just that someone was going to be at my house around the same time you were arriving, and that person was going to be retrieving something out of my mailbox that I left for that person.
Yeah.
And it sounds like very suspicious. It sounds like I'm doing some sort of like drug deal or something.
Why wouldn't your friend why wouldn't you just give it to them?
It's an acquaintance. It's an acquaintance. They needed an item that I had.
And you didn't want to like interact with them.
Well, I knew you were going to be here, so I didn't know if we would be recording when they got here. So I said, listen, I'm just going to put this. It was a key. They needed a key for something. I was like, I'm just going to put the key in my mailbox in an envelope for you. Just grab it whenever you get here. Because I didn't know. I thought we might be in the middle of recording. Then they get here, knocking on the door, that sort of thing.
I see.
So, I don't, nobody cares about this. I just wanted you to know if you arrived at
not to
our house,
confront somebody at your
not
mailbox.
to confront someone at my mailbox and get into something.
Like, is that what you think I am? Like a confronter of people?
I don't know. I mean, anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
I mean, if I showed up and someone was in your mailbox, I'd be like, "Yo, what's up, man?" And then I'd be like, I guess I probably wouldn't confront. It depends.
Yeah,
it depends. It depends. Like,
but you would know what it looks like to be someone suspicious. They have the eyes, like, like, I got caught doing something bad versus someone doing like a normal thing that's
right.
If
I see someone taking a package out of your mailbox and trying to leave in a car,
probably will wave at you.
Right.
They're not going to run away or whatever.
I guess
if someone runs, obviously you got to chase them down,
Right.
Chase them down.
I would think
that
back. Your judgment of the situation, I just didn't want you to be like overly suspicious startled. And confront the person and be like, yo, man, what are you doing? Like, you know this guy that lives here?
Yeah.
Because I do.
I'm
willing to kill.
Dude, that's so wild.
Oh man, there's so much going on right now.
Dude, it's Olympic season, right?
It's Olympic season.
It's election season.
It's election season, and it's getting crazy. Hey, did you see the body cam, the newly released body cam from the attempted Trump assassination?
I don't think so.
They just dumped yesterday or Thursday night or something like that.
Okay.
They just dumped a whole bunch of body cam video.
Tell me about it.
So what's interesting is, you know how there was a report from the local police saying that one of their officers tried to get up on the roof, ducked. They have body cam proving that. They were trying to figure out how to get up on this roof because people are yelling, there's a guy on the roof, there's a guy on the roof. So one officer boosts a second officer up on the roof.
Yeah, teamwork.
Now, the body cam, obviously is like chest level.
Right.
So all you see him start to get up on the roof, and you can just see the roof laid out in front of him on his body cam.
Okay.
You can't see bad guy. All of a sudden, officer just drops off the roof back down to the ground.
Okay.
Like they were saying.
Yeah.
And the officers, on body cam saying, he swung on me. I dropped down. I got close, and then shortly after he drops down to the ground is when
the shots
are
so
fired.
he rushed his plan because he was confronted.
Probably. Yeah. Which
man, thank goodness.
Yeah. May have saved, Trump's life,
and others probably.
And others, unfortunately, one person still lost their life, but yeah. So and then later on in the body cam,
right,
an officer is saying, I told the Secret Service they needed a guy out here on this, at this building, on this roof. Right. I told the Secret Service on. So
it was a steep roof, man. I mean, we got to be safe.
Speaking of steep roofs, I thought about the Secret Service the other day. I was on my roof. Okay. So storm comes, and I realize one of my gutters is clogged during this storm. It's just dumping, washing out all my mulch and everything. So the next day, I have to clean out my gutter. The problem is my ladder. I don't have a ladder long enough to reach up to the gutter. And at the time, I didn't know who I could call. I was also soaking wet because I was doing it in the rain. It was a mess. Anyways, I was like, you know what? If I get up on the roof and get down right at the edge to the gutter, I can clean the gutter out.
Right.
It was frightening.
You're not a big heights guy anyway.
I am not a big heights guy, but I got up on the roof. So I jumped up onto our main roof and
shimmied your way down.
Slide all the way down. And I'm at the edge because I got to be able to reach in the gutter. I'm at the edge. And I'm like, if I fall.
Dude, you conquered your fears.
Yeah. Yeah. My heart was pumping.
Dude, heights are a thing. I wonder if there are people who aren't, I guess there's people who aren't scared of heights or aren't fearful of heights because they've been at high altitudes. You know what I mean? Especially those guys, those men back in the day that built skyscrapers.
Oh, there's no way I could do
that. Those guys are nuts.
And the pictures of them eating on the I-beam.
Yeah, just hanging out.
Hanging out.
It's just a thing.
But either way, I was up on the roof, which the slope was a lot greater than the roof at this Trump rally. And I just had to think, my heart went out to the Secret Service. I got it.
Yeah.
I get it.
It's scary up there.
The sloped roof. But yeah, so I just thought it was incredible that there was a local police officer on body cam who obviously had been in contact with Secret Service and had met with them on the Tuesday before the rally. The rally was on a Saturday, and it said, I told the Secret Service they needed someone at this building on this roof on Tuesday, and they didn't listen to me.
That's weird how damning. Yeah, it's weird how nowadays we don't believe police unless there's some type of body cam footage. In general, most people don't.
Yeah.
It's because they say things and nobody believes anything until, let's see the body cam. And then that body cam's out. Okay, I guess they did tell the truth.
But you know what's crazy? The body cam, they don't even believe the body cam anymore. You can watch the body cam and people will still, put forth lies. I mean, we're going to talk about a case here later in the episode where it's clear on body cam what happened. And some of the lies that are still being perpetuating about that are incredible.
Right. I think that's going to be the battle coming. I mean, it's already the battle, but what is truth related to incidents or what can we believe anymore? With AI and with just being able to manipulate video and being able to add things to video and it's seamless.
Right.
I think that's going to be scary.
Yeah. Well, I think it already is scary.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But I think it's just going to get,
going to get even,
because AI is going to get even better.
Right.
And you never know. You're going to watch a video and you'll be like, well, I don't even know if that's real or not.
Right. Because they can manipulate someone's voice.
Mm-hmm.
Even now, when I get scam calls, if I happen to answer the phone, usually I won't even say anything.
Because they're
Like they're telling you, don't even say hello, or don't say, if you're asked, is this, Anthony Weaver, don't say yes.
right.
Like don't say anything. So, usually I'll just pick up if I don't know the number, but I'm expecting a call and it might be who I'm expecting. I just pick up the phone. I won't say anything.
Yeah.
I'll let that person talk first.
Yeah.
And if they say, is this so-and-so, I'll be like, who's this? Or who's asking? Or,
Yeah.
so
I think it'd be funny to just start saying like, there's blood everywhere. What should I do? Or like, there's a body in my basement. What should I do?
how do I clean this up?
How do I clean this up? Help me.
Yeah. I don't know. It is pretty wild. The AI stuff is concerning. It's pretty crazy what they can do with it and what they can use it for.
Right. It's another one of those things like like when computers first came out, everybody's like, oh, computers are evil and they're going to destroy the world. And this and that. It's just another thing that God has given us that can be used for good or evil.
Right.
And man generally chooses evil, unfortunately.
Laura and I were watching a movie just last night, and excuse me. And they were talking about this entity, this like AI entity that was like stealing all the information from the intelligence agencies. So the intelligence agencies were trying to rapidly record onto paper all their information so that they had hard copies of it, because this entity was infiltrating it and changing it and stuff. So they were like desperately, they showed this big giant room, and this is a movie, but they showed this big giant room with people at like typewriters typing out hard copies of all this intel that they had so that they knew what was true and what was, because this entity was disrupting their electronics, their computers and everything. And Lauren was like, isn't that crazy that we might get to a point where things written and recorded on paper, like hard copies, will become like precious.
Right.
Like, because it's like, you can tell, like you can't change something that's printed on paper,
or it's more difficult, or whatever. Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah.
I have thought about it in the case of like the Bible and the Word too. Because as our world continues to drift into this, like what is real and what isn't real, like what is true, like, and what I'm reading true, it's comforting to know that we have a book that has been carried thousands and thousands of years, that has eyewitness accounts, it has prophecy, it has truth in it that I can open up and be like, okay, this is true. I know this is true. I don't know if anything else around me is true, but at least this one thing is true,
Yeah.
So
it's wild.
Anyways, a lot going on. We had the Olympics, and
they're still going on, right?
I think
only
a couple more days.
Right.
As of this recording, only a couple more days. But so have you watched much of the Olympics?
Like, I mean, I haven't sat down and just like watched.
Yeah, we'll turn it on.
We'll watch some table tennis, and we'll watch some swimming stuff.
Yes, badminton. They had badminton on.
That's
and
wild,
I saw.
Man.
So Snoop Dogg was doing color commentary for badminton.
Snoop Dogg,
and then he was also,
he's old now, isn't he?
He's in his 50s, I think.
Okay,
I think he's in his 50s, and he is a. He's not a commentator, but he's what do they call? He's a correspondent.
Okay,
so he's like an NBC correspondent for the Olympics. Okay,
he's not an athlete, right?
No, he's
an artist.
This is what got me thinking. I'm like, how is this guy in everything? Like, think about, and maybe you can't think about what he's in, but if you think about it, you see Snoop Dogg in so many mainstream things.
Huh.
Like Monday Night Football, the new song for Monday Night Football, NFL football.
Okay.
He's in that.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
He's just in the song. He's like singing the song with Chris Stapleton. They do a remix of Phil Collins' "I Can Feel It in the Air," or "In the Air Tonight" is the name of the song.
Oh.
I can feel it.
Yeah, coming through the air tonight, or whatever. Yeah.
So they did a remix of that song for Monday Night Football.
Okay.
So you have Chris Stapleton, who kills this song in this,
like in a good way.
And yeah, in a good way. Just like, I mean, I'm a big Chris Stapleton fan. And then they have Snoop Dogg doing a guest appearance for the song stuff. Like he's in everything.
Does he ruin the song or?
I mean, I'm not a Snoop Dogg fan. I've never been a fan, but like I looked up his endorsements. He's in XM Satellite Radio, Chrysler, Hot Pockets, Money Supermarket, Orange, Overstock.com, Vibe Mobile, Tweed, Lace Me Up, Scoot e-bike, Adidas, King Ice, G-Pen, Norton Antivirus, Adidas,
Norton Antivirus,
Colt 45, Landy Cognac, Skull Candy, Neff, Pepsi, 7-Eleven, Serious Pimp, TomTom, EA Sports, Monster, Orbit, Mega Upload, T-Mobile, Pony. Like some of these companies I don't even know. But he's in all this stuff. And then I see him throughout. Like we watched a decent amount of the Olympics, and he is a correspondent throughout the Olympics.
So he just constantly is on the screen. Like
they're constantly like showing.
Is he talking about the Olympics or he's just there?
Yeah, he talks about the Olympics. He's with Martha Stewart. They go to the equestrian event and he's meeting horses.
Well, they both went to jail, right?
Horses carrots. Maybe they met in jail.
Yeah. I think they. Yeah.
And
did he go to? Is he a criminal? Has he gone to jail?
Yeah, so he has a rap sheet. I think he's done some jail time. Let me go down.
So that's interesting. So he's a celebrity because of his music back in the day. Like, has he released stuff recently? I mean, I'm not a dude. I don't follow. Like,
I guess what I started wondering, like when I saw, so he's in the Olympics, and I'm just like, this guy is in everything, and why? Why is he in everything? Because what he's about, and he blatantly puts this forward. He is about the weed smoking lifestyle.
I thought he quit smoking weed.
I think he said he quit and then he decided not to quit.
Okay.
Or he said he quit for one of his endorsements as like for a commercial for one of his endorsements. And he's like, just kidding. I didn't quit. Like, I don't know. I read something about it, but that's what he promotes this all the time. And he promotes the gangster lifestyle. I think he was a Crip or, part of a Crip set or something like that.
Like back in the day.
Back in the
day.
day.
He was a little young or whatever.
And I don't know what his affiliation is right now with the gangster lifestyle, but he just released an album here this year. And on that album, here, let me find the name of the song.
Do you have the lyrics? Because it's really hard for me to listen.
Well, here, I just want to tell you the name of the song and then see if you can figure out what the song would be about.
This is great radio right here.
So the name of the song is Let the K Spray. What do you think that song's about? Let the K Spray.
Let the K Spray. I don't know. Dude.
Really? He's talking about AK-47. His guns. So this whole song is him. This was just released.
Okay.
This whole song is about basically mowing down other gang members.
Okay.
Like killing people. He's talking about guns in it. He's talking about, gangbanger stuff. That's what he's talking about in this song. So he just released this song in 2024. He makes no bones about his love of marijuana, his use of marijuana, his use of weed.
Right.
Like that's part of his personality. That's part of his shtick is like, I'm always smoking, that sort of thing. And so I'm just like, how is this guy so mainstream? Like, why have we made this guy so mainstream?
Well, it's because it sounds like his values line up with mankind now. You know what I mean?
I guess. Yeah. I mean, he was a torchbearer for the Olympics, and then he's doing all
this.
That's what I'm saying. Like, why? Why is this guy
weird.
Like being elevated to such a high level? I mean, his agent must be incredible. His agent must be incredible.
Right. Or these companies are realizing that he's bringing money to their companies. So they're just jumping on board. It'll be a fad, dude. He'll fade away like everybody else does.
Dude, he's been doing this for years.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I mean, he's a defund the police guy.
Yeah.
He's like I said, his persona is the whole gangster lifestyle, crime.
Is that still the case?
He just made a song about killing people.
Okay.
And mowing them down with an AK-47.
It is weird what we choose as a society to, like, I guess, listen to celebrate, and to cancel. You know what I mean? Like, because there's some things that get put out there or somebody says something, next you know, you'd never, like, they vanish into the darkness.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of an example, but like,
I think we see examples every day.
I know, but I'm trying to think of a specific one where
I got you.
Someone said something and now they're canceled. This guy talks about, gang violence, and I'm sure he talks about women in a great way. I'm sure he lifts them up, and
right.
I mean, maybe he does. I don't know this guy from anybody.
No,
he doesn't mean anything to me, dude.
Right.
That's terrible.
I just find it amusing and interesting that someone like that is portrayed in such a positive light,
right? As a
given
hero,
so many positive opportunities. Like, why won't we for a person like that be like, no, you represent something that is wrong. You represent something that we don't want our kids involved in.
Yeah, that we don't want our society to look like. The things you're promoting.
The things that you're promoting, we don't agree. Those aren't good things. Those aren't righteous things. So we're not going to use you as front and center for the Olympics. And it's rumored he was paid $500,000 a day for his correspondence for the Olympics.
Interesting.
For like little 30-second, 5-minute spots of him doing stuff all over the Olympics, looking ridiculous, doing his dances, acting like he's smoking weed. I'm just like, I don't understand why we are glorifying this guy and lifting him up as an example, as someone that we should emulate,
Yeah. Well, what was that swimmer? The swimmer that won the male swimmer that won like the last 4 Olympics. He won everything. Big, huge guy. Like you see him every once in a while. But remember he started smoking weed right after, or he smoked weed 1 or 2 times. He got caught smoking weed, and he was basically like, everybody was like, this guy, he's not a role model for our kids. Like they blasted this guy. I mean, I've seen him at the Olympics this time.
Michael Phelps.
Yeah,
that's who you're talking about.
Thank you. Yeah, Michael Phelps, right?
Yeah.
He won all these medals, and he was the greatest swimmer ever. And then next thing you know, he smoked weed one time, and everybody's like, oh, this guy can't be a role model for our kids. And society blasted him. And then now you're putting Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand.
Super weird. Yeah.
It's just odd to me.
I guess it depends on who you are or what kind of money you bring to your platform.
Right. Because initially I was like, I started thinking about him, and I was like, why is this guy representing,
American
NBC
culture,
and
society.
American culture for everyone who's watching the Olympics, all these kids that are watching Olympics.
Right.
Oh, who's that? That's Snoop Dogg. Oh,
let me go download
load his music. Oh, cool. He has this song about having guns and shooting people that he doesn't like. I mean, and smoking weed. And yeah, I'm like, I don't understand why we put that guy front center.
It's art.
And then,
dude.
like you said,
it's art.
Michael Phelps.
Yeah.
It's art. Yeah. And so then I was like, well, maybe he's
reformed.
Changed. Maybe he's reformed. Maybe he's different. But then that's when I came across this brand new album, but he has all the same garbage in. And because his background, his criminal background is older, but it's quite a criminal background. In 89 to 90, felony possession of drugs. He did a 3-year prison sentence for that.
Oh, really?
Now, this is according to Wikipedia, which I believe everything Wikipedia tells me. But he does have a mugshot out there.
Which gives him more cred.
He has traffic violations, gun possessions that he pled guilty to. He was actually part of a murder trial, and he got acquitted. That was back in
as a defendant.
mid-90s. Yeah, he was a defendant in a murder trial. Marijuana charges. He's been arrested at airports and convicted for drug stuff. Arrested in Sweden for illegal drug possession. He's been sued for assaults, sexual harassments. He's gone through periods where he's been banished from other countries. Like he was banished from the United Kingdom from 2006 to 2010.
The Brits said, nah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that was for arrests or vandalism. This looks like vandalism charges, drug charges. He was kicked out and banished from Australia in 2007 to 2008.
The Aussies.
Banished from Norway, 2012 to 2014. I'm just like, why is this guy? Why in our culture right now do we lift people up like this?
Yeah, celebrate.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an odd thing to me.
Yeah, we choose the wrong people.
But Snoop Dogg, he's in everything. It reminded me of that bit Brian Regan, the comedian, does.
Yeah.
On
you introduced me to him a long time ago.
Oh, yeah?
Years and years ago. Back when we worked together.
He does this bit on cranberries.
Okay.
And he's like in the juice aisle, and he's like, what's up with the cranberry guy? He's in everything. You got cranberry apple, cranberry grape, cranberry that like cran everything. He's like, back off, cranberry man.
That's
so
funny.
it made me think of that. Like whoever Snoop Dogg's agent is, good on him. I mean, he somehow has taken this guy who gained notoriety and fame from rapping about gangster lifestyle and gangster things and made him mainstream.
Right.
I don't know. So it's a wild thing.
Yeah. I wish it wasn't like that, Anthony.
But it is. Dude, you got to get some energy. You are.
Am I bringing us down?
Yeah. You're like,
really?
Yep. That's how it is.
Well,
I know that's how it is. I'm trying to have a conversation about.
And we're literally talking about, we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes. Like, I agree with you. Like,
all right, what do you want to talk about? Give me one of your Gary Lowe-isms.
Oh man.
So let me ask you this.
I don't have
you didn't come in with a let me ask you this moment?
Dude, I told you I had a rough time this morning. Like,
why did you have such a rough time?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Did you go to bed late?
No.
Okay.
I don't know.
Did you sleep?
I slept well, yeah. I got a kink in my neck, man. I wonder if that's what it is. I think it's sympathetic because my bride, she was not well the last 2 days, like her neck.
Oh, really?
So I think it's sympathetic to that, but
sympathetic,
like a sympathetic like pain.
Dude, you got to find that knot.
I know. We got one of those like those athlete like beater things. What do you call those things? They're like,
I don't know.
Like thumps your back.
Oh,
or
like that thumper. Yeah.
Yeah. We got one of those things a couple years ago, and that thing's great. So she's been using that, pulling her neck a little bit. But I feel like this morning I woke up and I was driving over here to the studio and I was feeling it, a little pain. So I wonder if that's what it is.
Find that knot, and then you need a bony elbow into that knot.
Maybe I'll use your boy later on. He can just beat on me for.
I usually get, Lauren or my daughter.
Yeah.
To stand behind me and just like with all their might, elbows down on the knots.
Yeah.
It hurts like the Dickens, but man.
Like the Dickens?
It releases. I don't know. Are you allowed to say that? I don't even know what that means. I've heard that. Is that something offensive now? Did I offend people?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. Yeah, you won't be getting endorsements or anything.
That guy will never be on the Olympics.
Yeah, I wish they would I like when they put old athletes on. Like they talk about this stuff. Like I think that's interesting. Like Snoop Dogg, I could care less. Like I just don't care what he says. I don't even know the guy. Like I don't know his music. I don't know anything about him other than he likes weed.
Yeah.
And like I guess I did know that he was like a gangster guy. Maybe he still is a gangster guy, but
yeah.
I think once you come to he's probably not a gangster guy now. He just like celebrates it and wants others to. He makes money off. In reality, he makes money off the weak. In reality,
and I think in his early stuff, he would fly the flag, for these like sets, these gang sets and stuff, like in his music videos and stuff.
So they would buy his stuff. And would give him cred. Yeah,
right. I don't know if he still does that or not, but he's definitely still making music that glorifies that type of thing.
Yeah, which is terrible.
Yeah,
I really get upset. Like I don't like the gangster stuff. And like objectifying women and just the sex lifestyle, like that stuff just drives me absolutely insane.
Yeah,
like it's terrible.
Yeah, I saw there's this clip out there, a comedian who was talking about. So was it this past Christmas or a couple Christmas ago? They tried to cancel "Baby It's Cold Outside," the song "Baby It's Cold Outside," and so he does this bit on. He's like, so we've canceled "Baby It's Cold Outside," but we are all about this song. I can't remember the name of the female rapper, hip hop artist, whatever, who has a song.
Is it Cardio B?
Yeah,
is that her name?
WAP. Her song, which stands for something.
Yeah.
And so he reads he's like, so this is the song we've canceled, and he reads down over like the lyrics of the song. He's like, okay, that's canceled. Now I'm gonna read the lyrics from, and it's insane. He's like, this song is like topping charts and people are asking her to do this and do that and come here,
right?
And I'm just like, it's funny, like I'm laughing at it, but it's so ridiculous,
right? It's funny because it's so sad,
right?
I think it's absolutely insane.
It's absurd funny. Absurd funny. Like that we would be like, oh, we got to cancel that song.
But is that like women power so they can do what they want. Like it's celebrating that. Like we're not being like,
so this is
like tradition, like the traditional, like man, women.
This is how we're empowering women.
Yeah.
A song about a body part on a woman.
Right.
Like, I mean,
it's wild, dude.
It's like how is that helping?
Yeah.
Like our situation.
Did you hear the new version of that Baby It's Cold Outside?
No.
I forget. I mean, I wish I found the lyrics for it, but like, it's basically like, you know, if you'd like me to stay, like, would you invite me? Like, it's like that kind of thing. It's like so ridiculous. But, oh man, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
Snoop Dogg, he's doing it. He's making money.
He's making money.
Yeah, not changing the world.
Hand over fist
for good.
Hand over fist, making the money. So, I guess, yeah, I don't know. There's not much more to say about it.
There's probably a lot more to say.
Not much more to say about it. So, I mean, I don't even know how to transition into what we're going to talk about. Give me a good transition.
Like, what do you like? I guess, I mean, we're trying to move on, but like, what do you say to people as old men sit behind mics with some listeners? Like, don't buy his stuff. Don't listen to his music. Don't let your kids listen to his music.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, do like stay, like celebrate other things.
Right.
You know,
I think the cancel culture, one thing that's interesting to me about the cancel culture is like, you know, during Pride, I don't know if it was Pride Month this year or last year, Target had a whole bunch of stuff out. And so people were like, you know, don't shop at Target. And, you know, I think it's different if you can say like, okay, Snoop Dogg makes music that I don't approve of. I'm not going to buy his album and I'm not going to allow my kids to listen to it or whatever.
Sure.
But these companies, these huge companies that are run by people who are, you know, not followers of God, who don't, all they care about is making money.
Yeah.
They all support things that you don't support. So I see like these blogs and these like Christian leaders, like we need to like, you know, not shop at Target and not shop at Walmart. And I'm like, okay, so where are we going to shop at? Like, you know, like we should not be surprised that a company who does not profess, you know, conservative values, Christian values, embraces and supports and celebrates things that we don't agree with. And that is the majority of companies. You do a deep dive into all the major companies in our country. Most of them are supporting, celebrating, endorsing things that we as believers or just people as conservative people would not endorse, would not celebrate, would not be in favor of.
Right.
But we should expect that. Like,
which is why we're so polarized at this point as a society.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe.
I mean, I think that's one of the reasons. I think what I'm saying is like, you know, believers are like, we need to completely abandon these companies. And I'm like, to go to another company that believes something else you don't believe, like,
right. They just don't have the funds to get Snoop Dogg. Right.
Right.
Like in reality, they just don't have, like, they have the same belief system as this big giant company who can afford Snoop Dogg. They have the same values. They just don't have the funds to buy a guy like that.
Right. Or even
whatever.
Even just be me. Like every day you engage with people and use the businesses of people who have values and beliefs that you don't have.
Yeah.
It's impossible for you to go through life and only go to businesses and engage in the buying and selling of goods with only people that think the way you think.
Right.
Like that's impossible. That doesn't exist. And it's exhausting to me when people are like, oh, Walmart supports this. Don't shop at Walmart. Target supports this. Don't shop at Target. I'm like, okay, this is exhausting to me. So now I have to go around and try to figure out what all these companies agree with and endorse and then just not shop at them. This is what I would expect from the world. This is what I expect from the world. Now, I think it's a little different for someone like a person who has music. Like I can very easily say, well, I'm not going to support that person. I'm not going to buy their music or I'm not going to watch that movie because it, you know, has A, B, and C in it. Or, you know, I'm not going to, you know, whatever it may be. Like there's specific times where I think, you know, we have to do that. And I think doing it at times sends a message because money talks.
Yeah.
Money speaks. So, and I appreciate these people that are out like trying to like open a door and shed light on these really woke policies that some of these companies have. Like there's a guy who's going after Harley Davidson right now.
Really?
Yeah. And
What happened to Harley?
Rocking Harley Davidson, because at the high levels of Harley, it's just complete woke craziness.
Okay.
And so he's like rocking them. Farmer Supply. He outed Farmer Supply for their
Farmer Supply
for all kinds of woke stuff they have in their bylaws and that they're supporting as a company, and caused Farmer Supply to back off and like
That's
change things.
Yeah,
and
good.
So I don't think it's a bad thing. I just don't think we should be surprised by it.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Not surprised by it.
So
we got a doozy here to talk about, man.
Yeah.
This Alabama thing.
Yeah. Decatur.
And this
Decatur,
is pretty
Alabama.
New, right? Like 23?
So we want to talk about this officer involved shooting and break this down. And this officer has now been charged with murder. And we just want to talk about the case and bring, we don't have a huge following, but I don't think most people know about this.
I didn't know about this.
I didn't know about this case until several months ago. There's a Facebook page supporting this officer, Officer Marquette, and what he's going through. I believe he's married, so what him and his wife are going through. And this Facebook page started following the podcast page.
Okay.
So that's how I became aware of it. I started I'm like, what is this backup? I think it's called Backup Mac. And so I started looking at the website and stuff.
And we'll put it in the show notes, right? Like the website for it.
Yes, we will. And started diving into this case. So this is what happened. This is back in September of 23.
Okay.
So,
hey, when you sent me this, I read it and I was I read the thing and I was like, there's got to be more to this. There's got to be more to what happened here.
Right.
And then I watched these videos and I was just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
It so you said it happened in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
What was the city?
Decatur.
Is it a
Decatur
big city?
PD.
Is it a small city? Do you know anything about the?
I don't know the size of Decatur.
Okay.
I think it's a larger agency, but I don't know how.
Like hundreds of cops or like?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how big of a department it is.
Okay. But it doesn't happen inner city. Like the incident happens kind of in a neighborhood.
It looks like it's in a real nice neighborhood.
Yeah.
Based on the pictures of the house and the neighborhood around the house that I saw.
It looks like a typical neighborhood. You know what I mean? You have like a
neighborhood
cul-de-sac
I live in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So so this happened. I mean, September of 23. So September 29th of 2023. So just under a year ago, the officer involved is Bailey Mac Marquette. They call him Mac.
Okay.
Officer Marquette, and he's with Decatur PD in Alabama, or he was. He's since been fired or terminated. So this is what happens. I'll break it down.
Yeah, do it.
And we'll talk about it. So a repo tow operator attempted to repo a truck at the house of the suspect. He is approached by the male suspect, who we later found out is actually the owner of the truck. This male suspect brandishes a firearm at the tow operator as he's trying to repo this truck. So repo man leaves. He calls the police to make a report and requests their assistance to attempt the repo again. So the initial officer doesn't go immediately to the house. He actually goes to the tow yard to take the report. And I don't know how much time passes between, the report being made and them going back to the house. But ultimately, they developed this plan like, hey, 4 officers are going to go back to the residence with the tow truck driver to offer protection and, I imagine, try to make contact with this male and get this sorted out. So keep that in mind. We already have a suspect who brandished a firearm at a tow truck driver. Now the tow truck driver is asking for assistance to go back to this address. So the officers get there. Their plan was, it looks like they kind of, hid their cars. One officer went across the street, hid across the street. This is early morning hours, so it's dark out. Another officer's further down the street. And then 2 officers, one of them being Officer Marquette, take up a position on the left side of the suspect house. If you're facing the house, on the left side of this house, they're set up. You see the tow truck operator pull in and start hooking this truck.
And the truck is in the driveway.
Like
it's backed in, I think.
Backed
right?
in. Yeah. So tow truck driver pulls in, starts hooking the truck. Boom. Once again, suspect comes out of the house, points a gun at the tow truck driver. Officer Marquette and the other officer come around the corner of the house, and you hear Officer Marquette engage immediately with the suspect. He says, "Hey, police, get on the ground." And then boom, it's immediately fired. Immediate shots are fired by Officer Marquette towards the suspect. So there's multiple body cam angles, and body cam was not released on this. It was leaked. So that's how we have body cam. Someone leaked it. Okay. And right now, because of this trial that's coming up, there's a gag order because they're trying to figure out who leaked the body cam.
Oh, because that's the big deal.
Right. Because that's the big deal. And the question is, and I don't, no one seems to know the answer to this. Why wasn't the body cam put out? Like, what's the point of withholding the body cam from the public? The only thing that was released was some video camera surveillance from houses in the area, which is super grainy and you can't really tell what's going on too much. And because the body cam wasn't released right away, the rumors started coming out. The family started putting out, the family of the suspect who ultimately dies, it starts putting out that, you know, their family member was unarmed. He was ambushed. He was killed without reason. He only had a flashlight. You know, all these lies start getting out, and there's body cam that proves that that isn't true, but it's not released. It's leaked.
Okay.
And so now everyone's up in arms because this body cam was leaked and they don't know who leaked it. So there's gag orders and
good on whoever leaked it.
I mean, here
in reality, let the truth come out.
In reality, I think departments need to start playing hardball.
Yeah.
You know, the press and our politicians, they want to push a certain agenda, a certain narrative of what happens. And oftentimes it's like deafening silence from the police department. Like, get out ahead of it.
Yeah.
Put the stuff out
there. If it's good or bad.
If it's good or bad.
Doesn't matter. Yep.
Do it in all. And I get it. Like, there's investigations and sometimes you have to wait and you can't release something immediately because you need to like verify or check or clarify something before you release it. And you need to have conversations with suspects and you don't want them to have the ability of seeing something before
Correct.
You interview them. There's reasons to not release. But in a situation like this, where you have an officer involved shooting, the suspect is deceased, you know, because it's a white officer and it's a black suspect.
Okay.
That's the narrative. That's the pushing point. That's the thing that, you know, caused an uproar in Decatur, you know, because of this, that it's being pushed.
That was Anthony, not
Yeah, that was me. It's being pushed. Low expectations.
Yo, AI will fix that for us.
No, it won't. AI isn't that good. But it's being pushed. You know, this narrative is being pushed. You know, the racial aspect, unarmed black man. You know, this narrative, these lies are being pushed. Why not put the body cam out?
Right.
Why not get it out there and be like, no, he absolutely did have a gun and he absolutely did point it at,
especially a year,
officers.
like even a week. There's not much to do. This investigation is not much to do. There's a tow truck driver, there's police officers,
right?
And there's a suspect.
Right.
So there's no witnesses. Like, there's no reason,
yeah,
to not release this video.
Yeah, and the video shows. So I'll just get into the body cam a little bit. The body cam and the video from the houses nearby definitely show the suspect pointing a handgun that's equipped with a light.
Which makes it easier to see that he's pointing.
Right, because the light on his handgun is on.
It's activated, yep.
And you can see in the videos, he points it in the direction of the tow truck.
Right. Which is a crime.
Yeah. There's someone in the tow truck operator. He points it in the direction of the tow truck, and you can see the light sweep to the tow truck. When Officer Marquette and the other officer come around the corner, you can see him swing, and they announce, police, get on the ground. He swings the gun at Officer Marquette.
Right.
And that light, they have body cam that shows that light literally lighting up Officer Marquette. That light's right on him. It's obvious that he swung the gun. There's body cam immediately after the shooting with the gun on the ground at the feet of the suspect. The light's still on.
Yep.
And we still don't know if the suspect fired any shots. That hasn't even come out yet. If the suspect was able to fire any shots at the officer, and the officer fires, I think it's 18 rounds. He unloads.
He unloads, yeah.
His magazine at the suspect. Ultimately, suspect dies.
Like they offer aid. I think they handcuff him,
and
then they ask for an ambulance right away. Get us an ambulance right away, I think is what he says, ASAP or something like that.
One officer runs down the street to his car to get a first aid kit.
Like they're like, let's put pressure on this.
Yep. And again, like these officers, I didn't see anything on body cam that was unprofessional. I didn't see officers calling him names. I didn't see officers cursing at him.
Right.
And
that doesn't really matter.
That's a peripheral matter.
Correct. Right.
But it helps with the mindset of these officers. Like, hey, they're remaining professional in a very volatile situation. And when I see that, like, I guess I want people to appreciate that. Like, you were just in a situation where you believed you were going to
be killed
or
shot at or whatever.
Killed. You did what you had to do. Your emotions are so high. I cannot express how hard it is to keep those emotions in check with what you say. It is extremely hard.
And it actually shows the raw nature of the individual. You know what I mean? Like it kind of comes out in a stressful situation.
Which is embarrassing to me because I watch an officer in a situation like that. I watch Officer Marquette operate and I'm like, this guy, I don't know that I would have been as professional as him.
Yeah, like he stays under control.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't like
I think, if someone tries to kill me, like to not react in a certain way after you survive the euphoria of surviving and the anger of someone trying to take your life, to not say anything that is considered mean
or derogatory
whatever, not calling him a name, not cursing. And I'm not, like just calling him a-hole or, nothing. Officer Marquette has no unprofessional language in his response to this,
which we've talked about in other videos, right? Like we've talked about that a lot of times. It's not great.
It's not
to explode like that emotionally.
Right.
It's hard to control that to begin with, but like I think it does show a little bit of his demeanor.
It shows a level of professionalism, ability to operate under fire,
confidence.
He
knows what he's doing.
He's able to control himself. It shows a level of self-control. And for me, watching him, like knowing my personality, like I'm in awe of that because I have been in situations where I've been in intense situations and the words that come out of my mouth afterwards are not professional.
Yeah.
Have not been professional. And so it's very, very hard to have that level of self-control in a situation that's out of control.
Yep.
And so I think it's important to try to help people to understand like how controlled he was. He did what he knew he had to do to protect himself, to protect the tow truck driver, to protect the other officers there, and then continued to operate in a professional way, seek help for the suspect, look at getting him first aid and everything. So what happens after that is this case, as all cases in Alabama as all officer involved shootings in Alabama, go to the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, or ALEA. And they investigate all officer involved shootings in the state. So that's turned over to ALEA. They investigated it.
So they're a government agency.
They're a government agency within Alabama that investigates all officer involved shootings in the state.
Are they state police or it's just a state government entity?
They're called Alabama Law Enforcement Agency. So I think it's like a state kind of maybe like the Attorney General's office here in Pennsylvania, some sort of state agency that investigates these. I don't know a lot about ALEA, but they investigate every officer involved shooting. And my understanding is they generally don't give recommendations on whether charges should be brought or not. They just do their investigation and then turn that investigation over to the district attorney's office in that area and give them a brief.
So they're not even the charging agency.
Correct.
They do the investigation and give it over to...
It's just an outside agency that investigates it to try to keep,
I actually like that.
Yeah. Try to keep, show that there's no bias in the investigation, that sort of thing. So they hand it over to Morgan County District Attorney's Office. The DA there is Scott Anderson, and they hand their investigation over to him and that office on December 26, 23. DA Anderson puts the case in front of a grand jury. So my understanding is all of the district attorney's office is in Alabama for all felonies. All felonies are put before grand juries.
Okay.
So it's not weird that he did that. He wouldn't have had to put it before a grand jury, but he made the decision based on the investigation to put it before a grand jury. Personally, I think the reason that was done is because there was mounting political pressure and racial tension pressure in the city towards the police department, towards the DA's office. And I think they folded. And instead of saying this was a completely justified shooting, we are not putting it before a grand jury based on the findings of Aaliyah, based on the investigation done. The department also did an internal investigation on it. We are not pursuing charges on this. It's a justified shooting.
So he could have done that, and he could have gone to a grand jury. Those were his two options, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Based on my understanding of how the criminal justice system
and a grand jury,
generally,
a grand jury basically hears the investigation. So it's a group of people who hear the investigation. Generally, they hear a lot more than what would be allowed in a trial.
Right.
So the grand jury hears, and there's not it's a grand jury. My understanding of a grand jury, it might be different in Alabama, is that there's no defense. There's not
correct.
There's not a back and forth. It's the prosecuting office asking questions or actually giving information to the grand jury. The grand jury can ask questions to the attorneys.
Correct.
In the prosecuting office, and they can give them answers.
Correct.
So it's very open. It's not like a trial. It's not like you would hear in a trial where you see it on TV where there's a defense attorney and the accused is in there. That's not the case.
Yes, there's no defense presented.
Correct.
So basically only the prosecutor's office, the district attorney's office, presents the evidence and can answer questions of the people on the grand jury.
Correct.
I think in Alabama, the grand jury is made up of 18 people. I think to return an indictment, they need 12 people.
Okay.
If I remember from reading the way their law works.
And an indictment means, hey, we think there's enough to charge.
Correct.
We believe that the person or persons involved in this should be charged with these crimes.
Right.
And the prosecutor's office lays out the presentment. You know what I mean? So they ask the questions, and then the prosecuting attorney has a presentment that they give to them, and they vote on it.
Right.
Whether or not they want to indict whoever it is.
Right. So it's not a finding of guilt or innocence.
Correct.
It's a finding that we have enough probable cause. We have enough reason to send this to a trial.
We believe this should be charged.
Yes.
That's what a grand jury says.
Exactly. Yep. So I think you did a good job explaining what a grand jury is and helping people understand that just because a grand jury returns an indictment, it's just that we believe this person should be charged with this crime, and it should be presented to a judge or a jury.
And it's interesting because a grand jury is a group of people from the community, whereas like you or I could just bring criminal charges.
Correct.
You know what I mean? If we believe we have probable cause, and sometimes you have to get approval from a district attorney, but you're like, hey, this is what I have, blah, 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 blah. I got all these facts. These are all the witnesses. We look at video together, me and a prosecuting attorney, and then we say, yep, let's bring charges. And you type up charges and you charge a guy.
Right.
Or girl.
Now, can you talk at all about the grand jury in PA, how grand juries are used in PA? Because I think
I just described it.
Okay. All right. But isn't it's a little different in Alabama, every felony case is put before a grand jury. That's not how it works in Pennsylvania.
That is not the case in Pennsylvania.
Right.
Yep.
So a lot of times if you have a case where, I mean, maybe this is wrong to say, but in Pennsylvania, sometimes aren't grand juries used as more of like an investigative tool? Like you're presenting, you want to charge someone, but you also need to get statements from people, and you propel people to give statements.
Yeah. So a lot of time grand juries are used for like corrupt organizations, right? Because people don't want to talk because they don't want to get killed, or they don't want, like they were used in New York City with all the gangs, all the mafia stuff.
Sure.
You would coerce people to give you information, like banks. You can coerce banks to give information. You can coerce businesses to give information or records or whatever. You can compel people to talk. Now they still have some rights as far as what they what they can and can't, or what they don't want to say. Like you can have an attorney there and the attorney's like, we're not answering that. And then it goes before the judge of the grand jury and the judge says yes or no based on what they're saying in that small room. Then the grand jury either hears or doesn't hear what they were asked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's some checks and balances there.
Yeah.
But basically you can compel people with the grand jury to talk to you.
Right. Yeah. And again, each state is a little different in how they
it's all
use
set
grand
up
juries
different.
and stuff. So we've explained how Alabama uses it. And so, yeah, I don't know why. I think the DA put it before a grand jury because of political pressure. And that to me is disgusting. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but when you watch the video of this officer involved shooting, I don't know how you can draw any other conclusion. It's so clear cut that he was in fear of a reasonable fear of serious bodily harm or death. Like there's no other way to, you have a guy pointing a gun at you.
Right. I wonder. So I guess I'm trying to think if I don't hate that. I mean, I don't think I would do that as the top law enforcement officer of a community, right? Which is the DA or
the DA.
Yeah. Which is the district attorney of that county. Like, I don't necessarily hate the fact that he put it through a grand jury, because then he can be like, look, I gave it to the grand jury. Maybe he thought that the grand jury was not going to indict. I don't know. I think if I'm the top law enforcement officer, I don't have to do that. Like if I don't have to put it to a grand jury, maybe he had to.
Right.
But if he doesn't have to, I'm not putting that through.
Yeah. I think it's just weak.
Yeah.
It looks weak.
Yeah.
It looks like, hey, I'm going to bow to all the rumors and innuendos and false stuff being put out there. I'm going to bow to the mob in order to appease them.
I agree with that. I do.
And again, I don't know.
But what I'm saying is it's not a moral decision. Like it's a strength type thing. You know what I mean? Your confidence level as a DA, like you said, weak.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, but if he has, like, you can, as the DA, he can do that, right? This is if it's not a cop, it's a felony to shoot somebody, right? It's a crime to murder somebody, but he's a police officer. So you could put it to a grand jury. I get that.
Right.
And even if a grand jury says, yes, we're going to charge, I don't think he has to bring charges. Does that make sense? Like, I don't think that's the case.
I don't know how that works. I don't know how you could not then.
Yeah, if you look even worse then. Yeah.
If you're going to put it before a grand jury and then they're going to indict and then you're going to be like, no, we're not bringing a charge. Yeah. I mean, that's not going to work out well for you.
So it goes to grand jury. Like, I want to talk about whether or not you think there's anything, like you said, this is clear cut.
Right.
Right. That's what you said. Is there any negative things about like, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Or do you want to,
No.
like, where are we at now? Like, so it went to grand jury in December. So
right.
Or it was given
it was given to the DA's office in December. It went to grand jury. It went to grand jury. They indicted, and trial is scheduled for, I think, October or November.
Yep. So they charged him criminally.
They charged him with murder.
With murder. Okay.
Yeah. He's charged with murder, and the trial
is anybody else charged?
No, the other three officers were not charged criminally. None of them shot.
But they were there, Anthony.
Yeah. I mean, there's calls from the community. There's calls from the family to charge everybody.
The chief.
You know, they're saying all the officers should be charged.
Yeah.
Charged with what? I don't know.
Right.
Their civil case, so there was a civil case brought by the suspect's family against the officers.
Sure.
That took a huge blow just a day or two ago because a federal judge dropped the lawsuit against the three other officers. Okay. And basically the judge said, listen, if you're saying that your family member was ambushed and had no time to react to the police, then qualified immunity comes into play for the other three officers involved because they didn't have time to react or stop this action. They didn't act in a malicious or criminal way. If your family member didn't have time to react, then qualified immunity comes into play for these three officers because they didn't have time to react because you're claiming that your family member
he didn't have time to drop the gun.
Correct.
Because he says, hey, police, drop the gun. And they're saying that the officer didn't give the deceased an opportunity to drop the gun.
That's one of the narratives that's being pushed, is that this suspect was ambushed. The family is saying he was ambushed.
Does a police officer have to give a command and give them an opportunity to drop a gun?
No. And that's...
Explain that, Anthony. Why?
Because a deadly force situation, there's nothing in the law that requires an officer to give a command and wait for that command to be followed before they can engage in a deadly force against a suspect.
Right.
In other words, had Officer Marquette come around the corner and literally just laid into the suspect without giving any commands, it would still be a justified shooting because that suspect was pointing a deadly weapon towards another person and then towards Officer Marquette. Officer Marquette actually did something to pull that gun away from a civilian towards himself.
Right. Which he didn't have to do. Like, everybody should hear that. He did not have to do that.
He didn't have to say one word. He could have just stepped out of the shadows and put a bullet into the suspect.
So take a hostage situation, right? Like you see all these videos with like a bank suspect holds a teller, right? He's got a gun to their head, right?
Correct.
What happens? Generally, like in a good shoot, what happens? The sniper takes that dude's head off, right?
There's
no warning.
No warning.
Nothing. So this is a similar situation in that deceased is pointing a gun at a person, a civilian.
Right.
And the officer actually goes above and beyond what he has to do and says, "Hey, police." He takes his gun and moves it toward the police officer, which happened in my shooting.
Mm-hmm.
And the officer shot him.
Right.
Right. He defended himself.
Yeah.
And stopped the deadly force encounter, which would have been toward the tow truck driver.
Correct.
He already confronted him with a gun.
Correct.
And the tow truck driver left. He didn't have to leave. He left to save his own life, right?
Right. And I think that's key here. I mean, I what's crazy to me is how quickly we lose the personal responsibility of the suspect in these cases,
which we talk about all the time.
And we talk about it all the time, but how quickly we like focus on, did the police act in the proper way? There's literally no pressure on this. Did the suspect act in the proper way? No, he made a decision to come out of his house, brandish a firearm at a tow truck driver. That's a crime.
Right.
That's already like a crime. You can't do that. And then they go back and he does the same thing again. He makes a decision to come back out of his house with a gun and brandish it towards the tow truck driver. So the idea that the family is saying, well, he was ambushed. The police hid their police cars and then they hid in the shadows. And then when he came out with the gun, they ambushed him. We literally have no idea what happened between the time the officer went to the call to take the report from the tow truck driver and the plan they developed and why they developed that plan. We have no idea. This suspect, I don't know anything about him. Maybe he doesn't have a criminal record. I don't know. Nothing's come out about who he is. Nothing's come out did these officers already know who he is?
Right.
Has he already been a problem? Did they know that, hey, if we go over and we knock on the door, he's not going to answer the door. So we want to see if we can get him outside his house and take him into custody for the earlier assault.
Right.
You know, we don't know like what the conversation that went into their plan. And we can sit back here and say, well, their plan wasn't that good. They shouldn't have hid their police cars. They shouldn't have hid in the shadows. But that is peripheral to the situation. The question at hand is, in that moment, was the force used justified? And the answer is an overwhelming yes.
Yeah. Like another question is, are the police allowed to be there? Like this is a civil issue, right? And I think there should be reforms on this, right? Like the tow truck company can go to the court and get like, I don't know if they if they have to, like in order to repossess it, if they have to get a court order. Like, I don't understand how that works.
Okay.
But like, I think that should be like, there should be some reforms that way. Maybe, but like it doesn't change what happened.
Well, I think you can make that statement, but I think once the repo company went and a gun was pointed at him, you now have a crime.
Right. So the crime was committed an hour before, 30, whatever it was, and whatever the time it was, that was a crime. Even if someone's on your property and you brandish a gun and point it at them, like that's still potentially something that the police should investigate. Right. It doesn't mean it's a crime. It might not be a crime, but like the police are by duty to, they should be able to investigate that.
And there's also a difference between stepping out of your house And when he brandished the gun at the tow operator the first time, we don't know what that means.
Right. Did he point it at him
Did
or
he
did he
point
just
at
have
it?
it?
Did he just have it at his side? There's a difference between stepping out onto your property and having the gun at your side and asking someone, "What are you doing?" or pointing the gun at someone.
Yeah.
There,
Huge difference.
it could from the moment you have your arm to your side to you lift it, that could be the crime right there.
That's right.
You know, and so these are questions we don't know.
Right.
But they're peripheral questions. You talked about the tow truck driver and everything. That's another lie the family has continually put out, is that the tow truck driver had no right to repo the car.
Okay.
That it wasn't supposed to be repoed. It appears, everything I've read, it appears that absolutely we're at the right house, had the right vehicle, was definitely supposed to be repoed, but
Yeah.
the families, put out that no, the tow truck driver was at the wrong place, shouldn't have even been repoing the car, that sort of thing.
And those kind of things we might not know. Like, those are important things for trial.
Right. But even, here's the thing, even I think what I'm trying to get across is, even if the tow truck driver was at the wrong house, even if he went to the wrong house, was repoing the wrong car, had bad information on what he was supposed to repo, even if he had the paperwork and it was bad paperwork, the officers are doing what they believe is the right thing to do in that situation, which is provide protection for a civilian and investigate an earlier crime. Okay. So they're acting in good faith to go to that house. That's that argument, or that problem with the case. If it is even a problem with the case, it appears that it isn't. It appears that the repo was correct. But even if the repo wasn't correct, even if that information was wrong, that is a peripheral thing to this case. It has no bearing on whether or not Officer Marquette used the appropriate level of force or not. In the moment, a reasonable officer having a gun pointed at a civilian in his presence or at him is going to use deadly force.
Yeah.
All these other things.
Totality of the circumstances at the moment. Like, we're looking back on it. So it's easy for us to nitpick
Correct.
what they did, how they did it. Should have they even, why would the tow truck driver, there's lots of questions as to,
Sure.
to what could have happened differently, but that's not the law.
Right.
The law is totality of circumstances at the time of the shooting
by a reasonable officer.
Right.
And so, all these other things that the family wants to bring into it.
And
the
I
family
do
of
too.
deceased.
I want to bring that in. I think it could have gone differently.
Sure. You can always look at these situations and talk about tactics used.
Yeah.
Things that could have been done differently to prevent what happened. But that doesn't mean that what happened was illegal,
correct,
or criminal,
crime. Yeah,
or even unreasonable.
Right.
And so that's why I'm just flabbergasted in this case that this officer has been charged with murder.
Right. It's
murder is like an intentional act. You are,
he set himself up in that situation, knowing that this guy was going to come out with a gun in order so that he could shoot him.
Right.
That's literally what we're saying. That's what the charge is going to say.
Yeah. And the lie that the suspect was unarmed and only had a flashlight, absolute false. Yeah. Absolutely false. And the other thing that might be brought up is, he emptied his whole magazine on the guy. Again,
another peripheral thing.
It's a peripheral thing because I think we go into very dangerous territory when we tell the police, hey, listen, you have the right to defend the life of other people and yourself, but we decide how many rounds how many bullets that takes. Yeah. That's super dangerous.
And it's not like there's a law in it. He unloads.
He unloads on
but it takes him probably a second and a half. I mean, it is fast.
It's fast. And immediately afterwards, when they're moving up, one of the officers says, drop the gun or something, because when suspect initially falls, his hands are underneath him.
Yeah.
And so, in watching the video several times, I believe they thought he still had that gun underneath him, and was still holding the gun. Whether that was true or not, the picture of the gun that I saw was in the yard, like by his feet. It looks like it's by his feet when they move up, but the officer's involved when he fell and had his arms underneath him. Because as soon as they get up to him, one of the officers, I don't know if it's Officer Marquette or another officer, says, drop the gun, or something to that effect. They still think he has the gun, even when he's on the ground.
But that's also another thing, like training wise, you're told, like, say the things. You know what I mean? It's like say the things.
Right. But I think at that point, it also shows that they believed he still had the gun.
Right. Or they're just giving him commands, right? They want him to drop the gun.
Right.
So like whether or not he has the gun anymore, it doesn't matter.
Right.
He had the gun. They're saying, drop the gun, drop the gun, drop the gun. Like that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, like the number of shots fired, has no bearing on this case. The whether they, the tactics used, all peripheral. It comes down to that one moment where the suspect pointed his gun.
2 moments.
Yeah, 2 moments.
It's the moment he points at the tow truck driver.
Right.
Police officer confronts him.
And he points at a police officer. That's not murder.
That's not murder.
That is a reasonable level of force.
So I guess they would be saying, how would he know he's a police officer? Right. So the ambush is somebody's, like the tow truck driver brought somebody with him, and this guy just says, hey, police, and he turns on. Like, I guess but he's not alive to say what he was thinking, and that's not.
And the police can't operate in that way.
You can't.
You can't be like, I'm just going to wait and see what happens here. I think that's the other thing right now that a lot of people believe is that the police are reacting to something, and they don't need to wait till it gets more dangerous before they react.
Correct.
In a type of situation.
We're supposed to de-escalate the situation. De-escalate it.
Right.
Stop it.
Right.
Right? That's what it means.
Yes.
He de-escalated the situation. That's what he did.
Right. And he doesn't need to wait to take a round in his direction to do that.
No.
He's faced with a deadly threat.
And again, let's remember, deceased came out of the house with a gun.
Right.
Pointing it at a tow truck driver. Like that's what happened.
Right.
Like, I mean, that's what happened. It's not just some random guy walking down the street and trying to be a good, and it got confusing. It wasn't confusing.
No.
This is the guy came out to confront the tow truck driver so he would leave like he left before.
Right. Yeah.
And this time it didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it's a completely, watching a body cam is just completely justified shooting. And I just cannot believe that they're charging him with murder.
It's crazy. I mean, dude, and in reality, I think tow truck drivers, like repo guys, I think it should be hard to take someone's car. And I think it is hard to take someone's car. But you should it's hard to take someone's car, but you can.
So what changed this scenario? So if I put myself in the shoes of officers, if a repo guy called me as a police officer and said, hey, I want you to go along with me to repo this car. There's been rumors about this guy that he's violent, that he gets upset because we've repoed a car of his before, whatever.
Sure.
I'm not, my response as a police officer in Pennsylvania is this is a civil matter. We don't provide protection for repo companies. That's not what we do. If you get there and you have a problem, call us.
Right.
And if it rises to a criminal level, then we will come out. This situation is different though. You have a repo guy reporting a crime.
Yep.
Okay. And now the officers have to A, investigate that crime, and B, now that a crime's been committed against the tow truck driver, it's very likely a crime's going to be committed against them again. So I personally don't have a problem with then going to that residence. And again, you can talk about the tactics and talk about could have it been done differently. Peripheral. It doesn't, in that they came up with a plan. And that plan
was lawful.
And it was driven by the suspect. What happened after that plan went into action? The actions that happened were driven by the suspect. If the suspect would have came out of the house without a gun, he wouldn't have been shot.
Right.
If the suspect would have came out of the house, dropped the gun right away, probably wouldn't have been shot. These are the suspect in these situations. He caused this action against him to be carried out by law enforcement officers who are acting in a righteous legal way.
So one of the questions that might be asked, Anthony, is the officer allowed to be on this person's property? Is the officer by law allowed to be on the deceased property?
Yeah. No, I mean, they could ask that question all you want, but so I get a report of a crime. Am I allowed to walk up to the door and knock on the door?
You are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't need a search warrant to get onto the property and knock on someone's door when I'm investigating a crime. In certain situations, I need a search warrant to go into that property. But in this case, these officers, are engaged in an active criminal investigation, and they could have gone to the house, knocked on the door, and talked to this guy, and possibly the same thing would have happened.
Right.
Or maybe it wouldn't have happened. Again, you can what if the situation to death, and you cannot like the outcome of the situation, but it comes down to, did the officer act in a reasonable way under the policy and the law of the state and general use of force policy and law in other states? 100% yes.
Yeah.
100%. And to charge this officer with murder, I mean,
it's almost like they did a surveillance. It's kind of what they did.
Yeah.
They basically set up so they could watch to make sure this guy was safe and to see if the suspect, the deceased,
right,
was going to do something.
Right.
That's basically what they did, a surveillance.
Right. And it went south. And
because of what the deceased did.
Yeah. Because of what he did.
Yeah.
The officers did not have their guns out initially, from what I can tell.
Yeah.
I don't, it didn't look like any of the officers had their guns out initially. That it looked like they were, he came out, gun pointed.
But even if they did have their guns out, it doesn't matter. The guy had already come out with a gun.
Right.
At least that's what they were told.
Yeah.
I'd rather have my gun out than in my holster.
Right.
It's easier to,
just in case. Yep.
To keep myself safe and others safe.
Yeah. Yeah. And the department completely didn't back up their guys. So 3 of the officers, including Officer Marquette, were terminated. 1 officer was suspended. You got the civil litigation.
What were they terminated for? I mean, I understand.
They were terminated. The chief came out and said they violated policy.
Did they say which ones?
No. As never, I looked and looked and looked. I could not find anything that explains what policy they violated, just that they violated policy and they were terminated. So, I guess the department completely threw these guys under the bus.
Which is what we're seeing more and more.
We're seeing it more and more. It's rare. I did just see one case. I just posted some stuff on social media about it yesterday. Is a case out of, I think it's Colorado Springs Police Department.
Okay.
A suspect is in a stolen vehicle. They get in a pursuit with him. He rams a police car. Okay. Pursuit's terminated, called off. They then come across this guy. They're tracking him. They come across him at a corner store or whatever. Guy sees a police, runs from the police. They tase him. He falls on cement sidewalk, sustains an injury that paralyzed him. Okay. He sues the department for $100,000. That department completely backed up their officer and said, no, we're not
playing that game.
We're not playing this game. This officer acted properly within policy. And here's the thing. You're in a stolen car, felony. You ram a police car, felony. Then you run from the police. You can get tased. You're a fleeing felon. Okay. I'm sorry you chose to flee on a sidewalk.
Right. After ramming a police car. Yeah.
That's what police, I don't understand why more police departments don't do that.
I know why. You know exactly why. It's weak leadership. It's
pressure. It's poor leadership. It's pressure from it's
cowardice.
It is cowardice. It is cowardice. And this guy, this suspect he said, I would have rather been in prison than be paralyzed.
Sure.
I'm like, well, no kidding.
Yeah, of course.
No kidding. And maybe you should.
That doesn't make it
what the officer did wrong.
Yeah, you chose what happened that day.
So he's having this big giant pity party, and
there are consequences for your actions.
Right. He's having this big giant pity party press conference, and he's talking about how he would have rather been in prison. I'm like, well, if that's the case, then maybe you should have just stopped.
Yeah. So
the car.
Yeah. So why not a reporter say, "Hey, aren't there consequences for your actions?"
Right.
That's what should have been asked.
Or
that
a reporter go,
sure. Wait a minute, didn't you ram a police car?
Right.
Didn't you flee from the police and then ram a police car? Then you ran?
Like no pressure,
Yeah.
no pressure on these guys at all.
Yeah.
Or a reporter
did you ever have any consequences when you were a child? Did your father ever do anything to you? There are consequences for your actions. If you're a parent, make consequences for your kids when they act out of line. Give them consequences.
Or a reporter should have asked, if you just wanted to go to prison rather than be paralyzed, why don't you just stop?
Yeah. Right.
You know, because that's what would have happened. You
Right.
would have went to prison and now you wouldn't be paralyzed. But I saw that department and there are some out there.
Dude, that dude in Florida, those guys are awesome, man.
Yeah.
Some of those sheriffs, those county sheriffs, man, those guys are wild. I love them.
And they back their guys up.
Could you imagine working for a department like that?
It'd be amazing.
Yeah.
It'd be amazing. And you know, and there's been times where I have worked for departments, for departments like that. I'd like to believe I work for a department like that now.
Yeah.
And I think I do. But there are departments out there that, yeah, they like any type of political pressure, any type of pushback, boom, they'll just chuck you right under the bus. One guy I'm really into right now that I'm listening to him. He's on the Sean Ryan podcast. I think Sean Ryan used to be a Navy SEAL, maybe. He has a podcast, pretty popular podcast. And he had Sheriff Lamb, I think it's at Mark Lamb, Sheriff Lamb, Pinal County, Arizona.
Yeah.
This guy's awesome. And he's like old school, man. He's like, you know, we're going to, you know, you have an arrest and you rough someone up because they wanted to resist. Okay. Come work for us. If that's the type of work you want to do, come work for us.
Yeah.
Come do actual police work. We'll back you up. We'll have your back. We're okay with criminals getting roughed up out here. That's basically what he says.
Yeah.
Like, we're okay with criminals getting roughed up out here.
You know what? I bet they don't have a problem recruiting people.
I don't think they do.
I bet their department is fully loaded.
And he talks about that a little bit in this podcast. And if you go on their social media, what's interesting too is they have like the fluff pieces
that you have to have nowadays,
hug,
right?
Kiss, you know, all that craziness
that you hate.
Yeah. Listen, I don't hate it, but if you're going to put the fluff pieces on, that should be like a quarter of what's on your social media.
Yeah.
3/4 of it should be bad guys you arrested.
Yeah, we're crushing the criminal element.
We're crushing evildoers out here. That's what we're doing. And it's so I saw one video he had, like, you know, Homeland Security reached out to us and said there was a guy in our jurisdiction who was downloading child porn. We went and arrested him. He shows this guy being taken out of the back of a police car and walked into the police station on the video that he's recording. I'm like, so what he's doing automatically is infusing confidence from the public into his police department.
Yeah.
He's saying to the public, listen, we're out here doing our job.
Yeah, we're keeping our community safe.
We're doing our job to keep the community safe as best we can.
Yeah.
And that the public's confidence in the police department just increases. And he talks about it. He's like, it's a bank account. And you fill that bank account, you know, with, hey, you know, that confidence from the public. And then he's like, if you do have an idiot officer do something stupid or do something criminal, you have this huge bank account that you've created of, hey, this is all the good stuff we've done. These are all the bad guys we've taken off the street. Now we're dealing with this guy and we'll take care of him. And he's going to go to jail like every other bad guy because he shouldn't have been a cop or a sheriff in the first place. He's like, you don't deplete that bank account. But if all you have on is like, hey, this dog got lost and hey, we did coffee with the cop and blah, blah. Yeah. Well, have you actually arrested anyone? Have you actually affected crime in my neighborhood? You know, look at you. Get me all fired up.
I love it, dude.
Stuff.
It's easy to get you fired up, man.
But either way, we'll put in the show, in the episode comments, I'll put a link to Officer Marquette's website.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if there's someone out there who wants to support him or someone who listens to us that has a platform that wants to get the story out about this guy, like I said, his trial's coming up, I think in October, maybe November, and he's being charged with murder. And he could be any one of us. Yeah. Any officer who works for an agency that would fold to pressure based purely on skin color aspect, you know, lies that are told,
outcry.
It's just, it's so disheartening to me that this officer who's young, I think he's in his mid-20s, married, hasn't been on the job long, only been on the job maybe 2-3 years,
Man, it's tough.
and made a
it's hard to hear,
decision,
Anthony.
a legal decision, and now is facing murder charges and will never, probably ever, do the job again.
Right.
And is going to face huge financial hurdles with the civil stuff, and his department terminating him and everything like that. So yeah,
super sad.
Officer Mac Marquette. If you want to support him, we'll put links to the story and his website.
There'll be videos
in the
you put the video, like links to the videos.
I'll put a link to the article that has the leaked body cam video.
I love that somebody leaked that. You know, it's a cop.
Oh, I'm sure it's someone that said, "Hey,
no,
we're not going to let the lies. Let's just put this out here."
Yeah. And shame on that police department
for not doing it.
Yeah, for not doing it. Put the videos out there.
Right.
Like there are times you can't put it out right away, but you can sanitize it. You can put it out right away.
Right.
Or pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And if you're doing that as a law enforcement agency, great job.
Yeah. You know,
and back your guys up.
Support your people, man.
Yeah.
They're out there
Fill that bank up with police officers doing the work of a police officer.
You know what would
be
great?
The bad guy.
You know what would be great? You plan a coffee with a cop event.
Okay.
And you somehow invite criminals to it and you arrest them.
Oh, like a
reverse sting.
Yeah, like a warrant.
Yeah. So like coffee with a cop, and then, you know, invite people and say, you know, we're having this coffee with a cop. You've won something.
Yeah.
As I give back to the community, we're giving out gifts, and you have won a PlayStation.
Yeah. And by the way, or a Snoop Dogg album.
A Snoop Dogg album.
And then you get arrested for your warrants.
Yeah.
Dude,
and then
awesome.
put that up.
That'd be awesome.
Put that up. Coffee with a cop ends in arrest.
That's funny. All right, dude, we did it, man.
Episode 16.
That's a wrap, as they say.
It's a wrap.
That's what we say in the business.
I hate when you say stuff like that.
I know
it's
you do.
So dorky.
Your face literally
it's so dumb. That's what they say in the business.
That's not how I said it, first of all.
You need to... That's what they say in the business, and hey, let me ask you this.
Yo.
You say those two things, immediately I get annoyed. I'm like, I just want to shut it down.
And the fact that we're media moguls at this
that
point.
Too. That's a third thing you say that I can't
those.
stand. It's like token lines that you have. Find a different token line, Gary.
Are you going to mow your yard today?
I'm going to mow it like a champ.
Yeah, my kid's going to mow the yard.
Mine aren't old enough yet.
Yeah, not yet.
So, all right, man.
All right, dude. Peace. Hey, good stuff.